on the website,
pulsetalkradio.com.
Welcome.
We ain't afraid of no ghosts.
This is your number one podcast for ghoulies and ghosties and long-legged beasties. Bringing you everything you need to know about things that go bump in the night and interviewing the personalities behind them. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Now, here are your hosts, your ghost hosts, Scott and Julie.
Hello and welcome to Season 1, Episode 1 of The Paranormal Project. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Scott Allan. I'm going to be your host for the next couple of hours along with the lovely laryngetic Julie Finn. Julie is my co-host who cannot talk, and she has laryngitis. Wouldn't you know it on the first day of our show? But she's here in spirit. She's here in reality, but her voice is here in spirit. And we have the amazing Chris Brown. Chris Brown is a medium from up in Maine in the United States. Actually, we have a great show today because Chris is going to be starting the show with us. He's going to hang out and co-host with me for the remainder of the show, which I think is just great. And we have in the next hour, we're bringing Matt Warner in from Warner Paranormal Preservation Society, two rock stars in the paranormal world. And I do mean legitimately a rock star, because you really are a rock star, right, Chris? You have a band that you play in as well, right? You do, right?
I do, yeah, I actually do. I have a band that I play in, and it's a death metal band, believe it or not. Ironically enough, as a medium, I play in a death metal band. But yeah.
Hey, I was a funeral director for years, and so we surround ourselves with things that are that kind of go along with it. I mean, I didn't talk to any of them at the time; it was a whole other thing. But right. Tell me about the band. Where do you guys play? Are you mostly local up in Maine, or do you travel at all? Or
yeah, we're mostly local right now. We're just kind of doing our thing up here. We released a CD in March of 2020. So it was like right before the pandemic hit. We wanted to get some music out for people so they could hear it and kind of get through that. And as of right now, things have been kind of slow just because of, with the pandemic, things are slowly kind of coming back. But, we're still plugging away. We're still writing tunes and having a good time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Where can they buy your CDs? Are they on Amazon or where are they if someone wanted to grab your CD?
So you can listen to it on Spotify. You can listen to it on iTunes. You can listen to it on, any kind of streaming platform that you could think of. You can go on there, Bandcamp, iCloud. Like I said, iTunes, the Apple Store, Google Play, that sort of thing.
Where are you? What is the name? Well, what is the name of it? What is the name of your band?
I hesitate only because it can be offensive if you don't know the meaning of it. But we are called Stillborn Condition.
Oh, you know what? I did know that. I've heard that. Yeah. What is the meaning behind it? What is the meaning behind the band name?
So when I was born, I was a triplet. And it's part of how I do mediumship as well. But I was a triplet, and my two brothers, they were unfortunately they didn't incarnate into this world. Their umbilical cords wrapped around my stomach, which basically cut me in half at birth, and unfortunately it severed their life. So they were born stillborn, and I was left with these very large scars on either side of my stomach. So it was said that I had a stillborn condition because of the scars left over on my stomach. So as the name sounds brutal and harsh, it does come from a real place,
Right. It's not hard. I mean, and you have that permanent reminder that you were a triplet. In some way, they're still with you. Chris is a medium. Do you feel that you have any connection with them at all? I mean, do you feel like on a psychic level?
Absolutely. I mean, I always knew that I had like two main guides that were always around me. And I felt these two energies, and I never really associated it with my brothers, just because I didn't have the reference points. I didn't know anything about mediumship. I didn't know anything about psychic work. But as I've kind of gotten along and learned more about it, I found that and grown my connection with my spirit guides, I found that they were the ones that they were there the whole time. They've been there kind of like they didn't have a face because they didn't, I wasn't able to see them. So that's how they presented themselves to me in the spirit world, is just kind of it was just a presence. It was just a feeling. But I work with them all the time, and they are my two main guides for my doing my work.
It's interesting, Chris, because that's not so dissimilar from what I experienced when I started opening up. So just to give a little history, I met Chris back, I don't know, a year and a half ago, maybe, at the Real Conjuring House in Harrisville, Rhode Island. We were both there for an event, and I met Chris, and Chris was doing some of his mediumship work, and I at the time wasn't sure what was going on. I was having all kinds of stuff happening, but I just didn't understand it. But what was going on is that I was having this spirit named David that kept coming through. He was coming through on the spirit box. And, anybody that's done investigations, I mean, you get stuff, right? But you don't generally get names that continually pop up and ask for you by name, right? So it was consistent. I want to talk to Scott. This is David. And so we took some time to sort of figure that out and understand what was going on with it. But not that long ago, I have a neighbor who is a medium, and she said, "Gee, we should get together and chat." And so we did. We went up, and I went up to her home, and we spent some time chatting and talking. And she said that, well, she asked me if my mother had ever lost a child, and I said, "I don't believe so. I don't think she did, because I feel like my mother's an open book. I would have known, if that were the case." So she said, "I still feel it. I still feel it. I feel that there's another person there, like you're one of three." And I said, "I don't believe so. I have a brother. My brother is younger than me." And she looked, and she's counting like letters on her fingers, She says, "It's like 5. D. Who's David?" And David is the spirit, right? And I went, I never told her about that. I never told her about my experience with David. And that's a whole other show. But she says, "I really feel like David is your twin brother who died before you were born. I think there were two of you." Wow. So I went home and I said, "There's no way I'm asking my mother, if she lost a child, 50 some odd years ago." But I did, because the curiosity got the best of me. And her reaction was very matter of fact. She said, "Yeah, I really believe that I did. And it wasn't long before you were born." But see, back then, they didn't do the same kind of ultrasounds. There was none of that stuff back then. Right. I'll be 56 in July. So this would have been, maybe 9 months, 8 months before I was born. So it was either right before I was conceived or at the same time, and she lost one, and I continued on. It was really early. Yeah. So, that was really interesting. And I think that, I believe that that's what it is now. I really believe that he's been there, wanting to talk to me, guiding me. And when I do mediumship, he's one of the guides I bring in now. He's there. I feel a comfort. I didn't feel a comfort at the beginning. It was frightening because I didn't know, I thought I had a spirit attachment, which is really how it all started. So I never heard that story about you and the name of your band and how that related to your twin brothers, or your triplet brothers, I guess as you would call them. Yeah. So it's fascinating. So tell me about your mediumship. Tell me how that's been going. Are you seeing people in person now? Or are you doing mostly Zoom and phone, or?
So more and more people have been coming to me in person, which is great. I've been doing phone stuff as well. But they've been going wonderful. I really can't thank the universe enough for allowing me to do this work and continuing to be able to do it and to heal hearts, and then that's basically what it all boils down to. If I can have somebody walk away and say, "Hey, you really gave me some peace of mind," that's what it's all about for me. And I actually got an interesting compliment from a woman, and you might not think it's a compliment, but I took it as one, and I'd be interested to see what your take is on this. Yeah. But I did the reading for her, and I told her everything that came to me, and she felt that it was very accurate. But there was aspects that a loved one came through with that she didn't want to hear. And so she was like, "You know what?" She was like, "It was a very accurate reading, but I didn't like it." And I thought to myself, you know what? If I really did my job, then that's exactly what it should be like. It should be like, maybe they didn't want to hear it, but the spirit world knew what they needed, and they said it anyway. And as long as we're just kind of letting that flow through, the job does itself, which I found very fascinating. But like, she was just like, she didn't really want to hear to this forgiveness aspect, even though she knew that she had to. And I think it got the wheels turning, and I think it got her thinking, maybe forgiveness is an avenue that I could go down and have her heart heal a little bit from that, if that makes any sense.
It's true. And I think that certainly in a personal reading, a one-on-one, and you've done a reading for me, right? So Chris is the real deal, guys. I mean, he really is. And sometimes they come through and they tell you it's not what I wanted to hear. That's not what I wanted to know, or that's not the path I want to be going on. How am I getting that? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I struggle with it a little bit when I'm in a gallery type situation and there's a lot of people there. So I tend to tell people that, look, this is something that you feel isn't something you want to discuss in front of 50 other people. We can do this privately later. Just let me know and I'll stop, because they tell you what they tell you. I mean, you can't, and sometimes you don't know how it's going to relate to them. You're giving them information, but you don't know how that's relating to their current condition. So whether they're going to be upset with it or not upset with it, you get stuff that is just so random, and they're the ones that are making sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a reading once, and it was a gallery situation, and there was an alcohol situation that was coming through. It wasn't how I interpreted it, but I said there's an alcohol situation, and I thought that the person was coming through. There was a sense of understanding, compassion, or I'm sorry. There was that sense of like, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
And I thought he was saying, I'm sorry because of the alcohol. It was just the opposite. He was sorry because the alcohol was the problem with the person that was having the reading, and the spirit was just completely. I guess in life there was absolutely zero sense of understanding, compassion about it, and was just belligerent, and in the way that he treated this person because of their alcohol addiction.
Yeah.
And he never touched any alcohol, but the person did. And so the compassion and what I was feeling, the sense of I'm sorry, it had to do with the way that he treated her because of her condition, not the fact that he had the problem. And so you never know where it's coming from and how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
And but it is also, I think, like you said, there's a real sense of I'm getting this from somewhere, and we're healing hearts. I mean, she told me afterwards that was, as difficult as it was to bring up, that was very, very healing. So
yeah,
I know you experienced that. You experienced that as well.
Yeah, and it's true. It's the way it comes in is very confusing, and it can be very confusing, especially when it's very cryptically coming through different maybe images or snippets, which makes our job as mediums that much more interesting, I would think.
Yeah, it truly is, because you just don't know. You just don't know where it's, and it's that cryptic stuff that is. Anybody can say, "Oh, I've got a father image coming through." Who, I mean, that's fine. You know what I mean? But when you get those little nuggets of something that you could not have ever known, and it affects them, it's just legit, and it's beautiful. Really, it's beautiful, and those are those healing moments that you get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you use your mediumship when you're out investigating?
I do sometimes. It's funny because there's been times where I've been out on investigations and someone will say, "Chris, what are you picking up?" And there are times when I'll say nothing.
Yeah,
I'm not getting anything, because sometimes you just want to be an investigator, and you want to have the K2 go off, and you want to see that. You know what I mean? Sometimes you want the REM pod to go, or you want a chair to move. And so those are things sometimes where I'll actually turn myself off. I'll shut down completely and say, all right, I need some physical evidence that you're here. I know you're here. I can feel you're here, but please give me something else. And so sometimes I'll shut it down, and other times I'll lock right in, and I'll communicate with the spirits that are there. And it's always an interesting time.
Right. Yeah, it's true. We were on an investigation the other night, Saturday night. We were out, and I don't know. I was feeling it was all feeling. It was all feeling, and I don't get that. I learned how to shut down because it's not what people think, right? I mean, you don't walk around seeing dead people in the grocery store and having conversations with them. I mean, that's what I
Right.
thought it was like, you know. So when it really happened, I didn't know what was going on, but I could feel it. It was so heavy. I had to leave the room. Like I felt almost ill. I left.
Wow.
I went across the hall, and Julie said it lightened up in there. I felt like it followed me to the other side of the room. And, you know, I had to physically say, okay, back off. I mean, like actively, verbally back off, stay away from me. And then it was okay. But, you know, it's not like people think. I want to see it like you. I want to hear it come through the spirit box. I want to hear the voice. I want to see the little pieces of those little nuggets of evidence that you get on these things. Have you been to we were at the SK Pierce house in Gardner. Have you been there before?
SK Pierce. Yes, I have. That's an amazing spot.
Amazing spot. You know, and just like every other place, it can be hit or miss, right? You get in and it's either a wild night or it's just, you know, it's a little bit flat. But and I haven't had a chance to go through the evidence. We interviewed the caretaker, Marion, and hopefully that's going to be one of those shows when we're out traveling. We're going to upload that and have that be the show. People won't be able to call in on that day, but
very cool.
But it's really an amazing spot.
Yeah, that was I went with friends of mine, with the friends who ghost hunt and some other folks. And there was one in particular time where we heard this like scream, like loud yell in one of the main rooms upstairs, and it jumped one of the other members. He like literally jumped up and almost fell out of his chair. He's like, "Oh my God, did you hear that?" I'm like, "Oh, I did hear that. That was so cool." Like
when you hear it, like with your own ears too, it's incredible. You know, when you get that, you know, sometimes you pick something up on a box, you're like, "What was that?" But there's a place on the third floor that used to be the billiard room. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all, but you can sometimes hear voices in there and you think they're coming from either the closet or around the corner in the hall. And a couple of times it's been, you know, who's out there? You know, is there anybody out there? And there's nobody there. Barbara and I don't know if you know Barbara, but she and I were up there alone and we heard voices in the hall. I said, "Oh my God, Julie must be coming up." We heard footsteps and like voices coming up the stairs, and there was nobody there. It was just amazing.
Actually, at SK Pierce, I had my shirt tugged on. It was there was I think it was SK Pierce. That was where the gentleman had burned alive, correct?
Yeah, he burned alive.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't people had said it was a combustible situation, like a spontaneous combustion. It wasn't. He was, I think, a smoker and burned in bed. But he did. He burned in his bed in that place.
Out in front of his room, I was standing there and the back of my shirt was tugged. It just was like boink, just a little bit of a pull. And I was like, "Oh boy," like, "Oh my goodness." Like I mean, even though I could feel the energy and even though I know that spirits are real, I get goosebumps and I love it. It brings me back to when I was a kid and I lived in a haunted house and just going like, "Oh my God, what is happening here?" You know, like it brings me back to that childhood energy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. We go to this place in Revere. It's a history museum. And, you know, I don't know whether the place is haunted because of the artifacts that are in there or if it's because of the building. At one time, it was a church rectory, and there were a couple of people that died there. It doesn't sound like there was anything traumatic, you know, on the spot. But we were in there not that long ago, and something grabbed my arm. We were doing the Estes method. The Estes method is where you put the noise-canceling headphones on, and you listen to the spirit box, the responses, and try to say what's coming out. And then other people are asking questions, but you can't hear them because you have the headphones on. And something grabbed my arm, and I audibly jumped out loud because I did not expect it, and there was nobody near me, and that was the end of that for a while.
No more Estes method for the night, right?
Well, for the night, it was a little bit spooky, but you know, it's fun though. I mean, it's really interesting to get that sense of that there's really something out there, you know?
Yep, absolutely.
I'm curious on your thought on, because you go as you have another site too, the Reverend Christopher Brown, because you were involved with the Spiritualist Church. I don't know if you still are or you were, but
I don't do as much with them anymore. I mean, I'm still a reverend, absolutely. I'm still a reverend of spiritualism, but I don't do much with the churches anymore.
How do you feel about? And this is why I'm asking this question. It's sort of I don't know if it's an ethics, moral type question, but how do you feel about when you know you have a tormented spirit, you're in a haunted location, and you're there? I feel like there are a lot of places, because their income depends on it, they make you sign something that you won't cross them over. Mm-hmm. And I've always respected that. You do it, right? I've never gone in with the intention of crossing anyone over, and nor have I done that at a location. But what's your thought on that? You've got a tormented spirit that's lost and they're stuck in a location. What do you think?
That's a tough one. Part of me thinks that on a metaphysical level that nobody is really truly stuck.
Mm-hmm.
But part of me feels that obviously anything is possible, and it could be that these entities and these beings are really stuck there, and that they are kind of tortured as a result. I have heard of that before. I have had places say there's absolutely no crossing people over, and what is here stays here. And I've also gone into places where my job was to get rid of any sort of energy that was in the home and kind of cross them over. Now, I will say this. I went into a place once where my intention was not to cross anybody over. But I brought a friend with me who she was like, that was what we do. We go into places, we help
Mm-hmm.
people out, we cross people over, and they, hopefully have a better experience in their homes. But we went into this one space and there was an energy there that I think thought we were going to do that and was cussing me out on Ouija boards and spirit boxes.
Because it didn't want to go.
Yeah, because it was like, how dare you come into my home and expect to, have me leave?
Yeah.
And it was saying F you and cussing me out and all this other stuff. I was like, wow, I'm not here to do that. I already signed a waiver, like I'm not, that's not what I'm here to do. So
tell me this, because I don't know if that was the night that you and I were conjuring. Was that a conjuring house?
I wasn't going to say it, but yeah, it was.
No. And I remember because it was an interesting dynamic that night, because I remember there was a woman there and I thought she was with you. And I remember her saying, that's what we do.
Yes.
But, we didn't, because we just, we respected the owners and that wasn't something that I do anyway. I mean, it wasn't, but I remember that they were awfully quiet that night. And I almost felt like they were hiding because they didn't want to be crossed. You know what I mean? Like they wanted to stay away from anything that would give her the opportunity to cross them. That was just the feeling that I got on that.
Yeah. And I believe that was the same night I was pushed down the stairs.
You were?
I was at I've been to the Conjuring House twice.
Okay.
One of the nights I was going live, and I stopped, right at the top of those really long stairs that are by the kitchen.
And you get to the top and you have to almost like climb up and over to get into.
Yeah. So it goes up into one of the bedrooms.
Right.
I was standing on the top of that stairwell and I was going live and I was looking at my phone and all of a sudden something, boom, pushed me. And I went down every single one of those steps.
You're kidding. Wow.
No, I was live, you could probably see it on my Facebook pages, but I was just boom, 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 all the way down. I'm like, holy crap. And there was no one behind me. It was incredible. So I wonder if it was that night or not, but it definitely happened.
That's crazy. The house is really an interesting place. And I remember you said you did Ouija board and stuff. We left. I mean, I've never spent the entire night there just because I always have, I've got my son at home and that kind of thing. He's pretty young, so I always have to get back. But I remember you had done that night after we left, and it was pretty intense. But when we were there, it was quiet. And I've been there on other occasions where it's just been like off the wall.
Yeah.
Off the wall.
Yep.
Excuse me 1 second. I can hear you, but I just realized I did not plug in my laptop, and we're going to lose power here in a second. So I'm plugging it. I don't know why I didn't plug that in. Usually I'm right on here. Hang on 1 second. All right, we're back on. Here we go.
There we go. Problem solved.
Perfect. All right. Yeah. Yeah, that place is crazy. And, if you go on my YouTube channel, which is the Paranormal Project radio show, you'll see that there was a moment we were in the library and you can see the door unlatch and completely open.
Oh, cool.
And nobody there, nobody around it. And we happened to catch it. I couldn't believe that I caught it. I thought there's no way I got that. And then it was there. Yeah. So it was pretty cool.
It's always great when you catch that bit of evidence and you're like, like no one's going to believe this. And be like, but now they can. Like, I have it.
Now they can. It's right there. Absolutely.
There, exactly. Yeah. That's like there's a video of a shadow figure that I caught on the USS Salem, and every chance I get to show somebody, I do. Wow. But it's right in the bottom decks, and you can see it kind of poke its head out, and then it goes like this. It's pretty wild.
Where were you when that happened? Do you remember where you were on the ship?
It was down by, it was where the beds were. I'm terrible with names of the parts of the ship. But I was down in the lower levels.
In the berthing area, way down.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. We have Don coming on. Don, who is from Greater Boston Paranormal.
Yep.
I think I told you that he's coming on next week to talk about the ship and the Paracon. But that place is an interesting place.
It is very interesting.
And I've not had any luck using spirit boxes or anything, I think, because of the way that it's completely isolated. The hull of the ship and the steel and everything. I can't get you can't get anything, but there's so much there. Shadow figures and just the overall feeling you get, that there's something around you.
Oh, yeah. It's very foreboding. And
we're going to talk to him next week, too, because we've even talked about there being some kind of an elemental on the ship, some non-human entity. And Julie, if she was here, she'd be sharing that because she had some kind of a connection with it where it was just sending off the REM pods and chasing her down the hallway just about. Yeah, it was pretty intense.
Wow.
So it's a great ship. And we're going to be there again for the Paracon in May, the end of May. I'll be doing some readings there, but
killer.
Yeah, anybody from, this side of the pond, I know we have listeners over in the United Kingdom as well, but anybody here that has not been on this ghost ship, I tell you, it is worth it. Russell and Simon, who run the Essex Ghost Hunters over in England, I was on their show a few weeks ago, and Russell had just commented. I don't know if he's still here. Hello, guys. Hi, guys. We talked about them coming to the United States and being here and being able to go on the ghost ship. So we'd love to host them there and take them on a tour of the ghost ship because,
incredible.
It's really funny, when you talk to paranormal groups from other side of the world. I can't wait to get over to the United Kingdom. I've never investigated there before. I mean, you talk about ancient history.
Yeah.
And these spirits, but they just want to go on an asylum. They don't have them. They don't have those kind of buildings over there, or a ghost ship. They don't have that kind of thing. So hopefully, they'll come over and we can show them a good experience here with some of our
good old fashioned New England haunts.
Right. So, do you have anything coming up? Any investigations you've got coming up pretty soon, or?
No, actually right now my slate is pretty clean. Crazy enough, but I've been cranking away. I've been going a mile a minute for a long time. So,
good.
Maybe the universe is saying, take a break. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to, but I'm still available for readings and I still do that. But as of right now, I don't have anything coming up.
How can people reach you, Chris, if they want to reach you for a reading?
They can go right on Facebook, right on Psychic Medium Christopher, right on Facebook.com.
Psychic Medium Christopher on Facebook. Yep. Okay, good.
Or they can reach out to me through I do shooting a web series with Toby Hartford called Soul Searching. You can go to Soul Searching with Psychic Medium Christopher, and you can reach out to me through there as well.
Tell me about that. That's one of the things I wanted to chat with you about too, because I saw that, but I didn't know too much about it. How was that? How did that come about?
That came about because honestly, I got together with Toby and we loved ghost hunting together and we loved kind of doing that sort of thing. And I had told him how I always liked the idea of, John Holland, the medium.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember his old A&E specials where he would go to these haunted locations and he'd say, I'm feeling like there was an Italian mobster and he got shot here. And, this was his mannerisms, and he'd blend with the spirits of the location. And I always loved that. And so, as a younger medium, I wanted to be like that. And so that's kind of what my drive was, as I wanted to go into locations and kind of just see what I got for validation's sake. And that's how
Right.
that came about, is so I'd go into these locations and I'd try to psychically and mediumistically pick up whatever I could, and then there'd be validation at the end, and then maybe throw in some readings as well. And so that's what we did, and I think that we have done a really great job so far.
Wow, that's great. Now, is that a separate channel or is that yours? Like, if I wanted to see that, where is that available? Is that on
That's
YouTube?
available. There's a few episodes on YouTube, but
Okay.
mainly on Facebook right now.
On Facebook. Cool.
Yeah. Yep. So there's a separate page that's called Soul Searching with Psychic Medium Christopher.
Yeah.
So you can check that out there. There's 4 episodes right now, and all 4 are up. Last one we did was at Wilson Castle. I was able to do a reading for the owner and her friends there, which was awesome. Denise.
Denise,
yeah, she's awesome.
We're going up in June. We're going up in. How far are you from there? Are you far from Wilson Castle?
About 3.5, 4 hours.
Oh, you are. So you're like us. You're not that close. I don't know why I was thinking. I feel like I'm going north. Everybody's near there, but I guess you're. I don't know. You must be a bit further north. Yeah, we're going up in June, and when I was first sort of discovering all of this mediumship thing, I went up with there was myself, the guys from Grit Paranormal, and also Seth Borden. So Seth Borden is on YouTube. He's known as Cinematic Seth. And Seth said, "Well, why don't you read me? We'll film it. You can read me." And I did, and I sat with him in that dining room, which is it's like the Clue Mansion. So if anybody has never been, it is the most amazing space. And then everybody else started to come in, and it turned into this mini gallery event. That was the first time I thought, okay, I can do this. It's not fake, right? You can't make this stuff up, the stuff that's coming to you, It was pretty amazing. And so I'm looking forward to going back again in a few months.
That's awesome.
June something or other, we're going up there. So that should be really great. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Have you seen John Holland live? I know you were talking about him.
No, I haven't. I've watched a lot of stuff on YouTube, but I've never seen him live. I'd love to, absolutely.
Well, Julie and I are going in, I actually think it's next month.
Oh, wow.
I think it's next month, just before the Paracon, maybe the 12th or 13th or something like that. I think we're going up. He's in Exeter, New Hampshire.
Very cool.
I do believe he lives in Exeter, but there's like the Exeter Inn or something, and we're going up and seeing him. I had seen him many, many years ago when he was with Sylvia Brown in Boston. And that's the first time I was introduced to him. But he came down to Circles of Wisdom in Methuen back last year one time. And I was able to take a 2-day training with him, which was just great.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was really a great experience. If you have an opportunity to do that, that would be really, really great.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of his books, and they are great references for mediumship.
They are. And it's amazing to me because he really is so right on. I think sometimes it's learning to trust what you get. It's that confidence that, look, I'm getting this and I know where it's coming from. So if you're not making sense out of it, that's your problem. It's almost what it feels like. You know what I mean? Is that kind of trust. You don't have to make it fit when it's right. You know what I mean? People will get it. And I've learned too that sometimes, if you're getting that second, you're right. And then you're wrong. Sometimes that's another spirit coming in, trying to give you the information. And, they're still trying to associate with the person you were conversing with before. So
oh my goodness,
he showed that. It's just amazing.
I can't tell you how many times that's happened where you're going strong with one individual and then another spirit steps in, but it's very seamless. So you don't realize that transition happened. And all of a sudden they're like, no, that sounds like my uncle so-and-so. And it's like, well, probably because Uncle so-and-so was coming through.
And that happens. It's just interesting. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
So one of the places Julie and I have been talking about going with our team is the seminary, Parsons Field.
Yeah.
Now, where is that in relation to you? Is that near you at all? I'm so have no geography when it comes to north of here.
So I live in central Maine, and Parsons Field is about almost 2 hours from me.
Central Maine. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We want to go. I don't even know how to set that up, or I think they probably have something online. We could reach out.
Friends,
and see.
Friends of Parsem or Parsonsfield Seminary. Friends of. I'm sure if you reached out to them, they could probably help you out. I've never done anything independently through them. I've only been invited to different things, so I don't know how to get a hold of them myself. But
Right.
you should definitely get in there. It's a
I'd like
awesome
to go.
spot.
It is, huh?
Yeah. It's very cool. It's very active.
I don't know.
You see a lot of shadow figures, a lot of different things like that.
Was it a real seminary, or what? How did it come up with the name seminary?
No, it was a real seminary. It was a boys and girls kind of religious school, I believe. So you'd have the boys' side and you have the girls' side, and it's very interesting. It goes back into the 1800s, I believe, maybe even early 1800s, I think. But yeah, it's a very fascinating spot. There's two different buildings. There's the seminary itself, and then there's the main kind of churchy schoolhouse building, is what they call it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. We're going. Well, I'm doing an event in, what the heck is it? It's up in New York at Wildwood Sanitarium. It's in the spring. It's in September. I'm doing a gallery event for them to raise money for the American Association of Suicide Prevention, which I think is just a great cause. So we're going to go do that, and then the next day we're heading over to Madison Seminary in Madison, Ohio. Now, I'd been there. I went there last year, and the Madison Seminary wasn't really a seminary. That's what's sort of interesting. It was a boys' school at one time, but it wasn't a religious school. But it was just, ironically, some of the boys had gone on to become priests. But that was back in the day too. It was a little more common back then to see. So that was sort of like, it's like a seminary because they're all going off to become religious. And then it became an asylum, and it, the whole thing with the asylums in the United States, it was just an awful chapter of history. But the energy that is left behind is incredible.
Yeah, the asylums, some of them are big, like on my list of places I wanted to go to, and the energy there is pretty intense from what I've heard. Yeah,
we at Madison Seminary, there were 3 of us in the whole building. So that was it. It was a small group, and it's affordable to get into. Adam that runs the place, that owns the place, actually has that in Fairfield County Infirmary. We've never been to that one. But Madison, when we were up in the asylum, we recorded stuff, and we got responses that were just, it was residual for sure. Some of it was residual. We could hear them talking about, I've got so many mouths to feed in here. And, Eddie, go make your bed. And all right, I'll go make my bed. And,
oh, wow.
And you could hear chatter of people talking. It was all caught on a recorder, and we were the only ones in the building. There was nobody there.
That's wild.
And then at one point, one of the people that I was with there that night, we were in a room, and there were kids' toys. It was part of the asylum. And we said, I've got some candy here. I'll just leave it. If you want some, you can come and take it, if you want to move it. And you could hear somebody say, "Candy, yay," on the recording. Just phenomenal.
That's awesome.
It was just completely outrageous. There was one part of that building that was around during the Civil War.
Holy cow.
And one of the men that I was with had a, the holy grail of recorders, the DR60, and said, were you Union or Confederate? Plain as day, I'm a Confederate.
Wow.
I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. And again, I have that video on my YouTube channel, The Paranormal Project. If you go on there, you can see, I think it was we got so much evidence. It was a 2-parter. I did 2 videos out of it. It was just incredible, the amount of evidence that we got on that investigation. So we're going back in September. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just an amazing, amazing experience.
That's awesome. You're doing that event for suicide prevention as well. That's a great cause. It's very near and dear to my heart. So good on you for that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. I'm really glad to be doing that. And it's funny because we do this stuff, but I really love being able to give back, and Absolutely. Do that kind of stuff. And even I told you about that reading that I did, the gallery event with the man who had the daughter with alcohol issues, and
Yeah.
that was an event. That was we were raising money for a theater, and I that's why I'm really glad I've got Matt coming on the show, because it's all about it. In some cases, the preservation of these buildings, because we have a tendency to take and just bulldoze these buildings in, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it. But to be able to share them and keep the history alive and never forget what really happened in these places, I think is really great. That's why I'm excited to talk about this with Matt and what he's doing in the next hour of the show. But yeah, the suicide prevention, I think, is just great. I mean, in terms of being able to do that, because it's a big. And I was a funeral director for years, so I saw a lot of people suffer a lot of things.
Yeah,
and I went through that. So it's hard. You see the trauma that was left behind from it, and we can, we were talking about this earlier, that there are better days. You know what I mean? And for people to feel like they don't have any other option, it's just awful. So hopefully, you'll be able to do some good with this that we're doing.
Absolutely. That's right. Give back a little bit.
Give back a little bit. So one thing about Matt, when he comes on the show, he was born and brought up in the Bridgewater Triangle. Do you know much about that? Do you know much about the Bridgewater Triangle?
I can't say as though I do.
So the Bridgewater Triangle, Julie's had experience with this. The Bridgewater, and we'll talk to Matt about this a little bit, because it's such a fascinating place, and I don't know a lot about it, but it is this triangle in southeastern Massachusetts, incredibly haunted. If you go on, I don't know if it's Prime Video, Amazon, one of those streaming, and they've got a show on the Bridgewater Triangle, and it is just incredibly haunted. There's talk of just things out in the marshes and haunted homes. They're just inundated with spirits and paranormal activity for whatever reason. And I know Julie, if she were here, she'd tell you she had been on an investigation, and there was something that was so strong and so what she felt non-human, that she was actually ill and had to leave the house. It made her stomach turn. So there's definitely some real crazy stuff going on in that neck of the woods, and that's why he had this this connection with the paranormal from the time he was little, and that's probably why, because he lived in a place that was just insanely crazy haunted. I don't know what it is with that neck of the woods down there, and why there is so much of it down there. But there's a lot of crazy stuff. And I was able to. We had been contacted by a family down there that was dealing with it. And we, just because of COVID and everything, we never did get down there to investigate. But they had been dealing with just incredible experiences in their home.
Yeah.
So you should be able to shed a little light on some of that as well. Yeah. So just check the time here, because he's going to be on in like 15 minutes. So we're going to be able to talk with him a little bit.
That's cool.
Yeah. But Matt's a good guy. He opened that place up down there, and I'm really anxious to hear a little bit about that as well.
I definitely like to hear about that. I've seen a little bit of it on social media, but not too much.
Yeah, not too much for me either. I don't know if he bought it or what, but I'm sure he'll be able to.
He can clarify with us.
What's that?
I said he can clarify with us.
He'll clarify what's going on down there, but I know he just had an Easter egg hunt, so the
cool.
other side of the other side of it going on down there.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't know if I don't think you're taking part in this, but they have this camping trip coming up. Is there a camping trip coming up too on Swan Island? What is this? What is that all about?
Yeah, what is Swan Island? I was there last year, so it's a great time. So Swan Island is a place right in Maine. It's off of it's this little island off this town called Richmond. It used to be its own town all by itself, but it's now part of Richmond. But there's a lot of old cabins and a lot of old buildings on there. There's also a lot of Native American history on the island, which is really cool. So there's an old graveyard, there's old buildings that you can investigate too. So it's going to be a 3-night thing, I think. Friday, Saturday, at least Friday and Saturday. But there'll
Yeah.
be camping. There's going to be, fires. There's going to be a gallery reading with a woman named Colleen Castillo, I believe.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So she'll be doing a gallery reading there for the folks that are there, along with the investigation. There's food. Like I said, it's a great time if you can make it. Anybody who's listening and watching, I highly recommend it.
How would you get tickets for that? Was that
That's a good question. I would
on Facebook, but I don't know where I saw it on Facebook.
Yeah, so I would reach out to either Travis Hartford.
Okay.
I would say he would be the best person to know about tickets for that.
All right, and some of the stuff I can once we get done with this today, I can go in and put some information in the chat.
Yep.
So that people can grab some of these about Travis and the Swan Island, and they want to reach out to you too. I don't know. There's a few, people have been jumping in and out of the chat here. Does anybody have any questions for Chris? This would be a really good time if you have questions about what he does, anything about the paranormal, about booking a reading with him, or checking out his soul searching web series, any of that, feel free to ask, and he's here, and feel free to, ask away, and he'll answer any questions that you have. Because Chris is going to be with us in about, I don't know, let's see, what time is it now? Probably like 10 minutes or so. He's going to be popping on the show, I would think.
Very cool. Yeah, last I saw Matt was at Parafest, so that'd be cool to talk to him.
That was the last I saw him too. He was up in Parafest in Maine, and that's coming up in September. Unfortunately, I won't be there this year. We were there last year doing some readings and stuff, but won't be there this time. But that's okay. Hopefully we'll be back on another event. It looks like they're growing pretty well. This is going to be a bigger event than it was last year, I think, from what I can see.
I think so. I mean, it gets bigger and bigger every year, and that's one event that I do have that is booked. I'll be doing a gallery reading there for Parafest, as well as being available for readings. But Parafest is a great time, and there's always good people there, and it's unfortunate that you won't be able to make it, but I understand. But hopefully next year you can make it, and it'll be great.
Yeah, we had a great time last year up there. We really did.
It's pretty wild doing readings in a haunted location, especially because I think at the same time you and I both, we had a break, and something had touched like my leg, and then you were like, yeah, something had touched my leg, or something had touched me.
I think so. We were right near each other, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was like a car between
the room.
Yeah,
it is. It's kind of wild, and sometimes I question too. When you're doing readings in an area that has so much energy, what are you getting? You know what I mean? Are you always, Are there things coming through that maybe, you don't want to talk to? I don't know. You know what I mean? That you're connected to the person that's sitting in front of you, I guess, is what I mean to say.
Right. Open to other spirits coming in and kind of influencing the reading a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. It's hard to say. I don't know that I had any real difficulty there, but things happen though. I've done readings in other haunted locations, and I've gotten stuff that comes through, and it didn't feel like it was connected to anybody in the room, but it was, you could tell it was from another era.
Yep. The energy felt older.
It felt older. I was getting somebody when we were at the History Museum, and we did a benefit for them too, to raise money for the preservation of the building. And I was getting somebody I felt like they were in a tri-corner hat, but I thought that they were someone who might have been a townie who had been part of like parades and things, but nobody was really connecting with it. And I'm wondering if it was connected with something else in the building. There was a lot of artifacts in there going back to, way back when, Civil War and that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so you could very well
it's very, very, not Civil War, even like the Confederate, not the Confederate. You know what I'm talking about? Colonial times.
Yeah. The revolutionary.
Is what it felt like. Revolutionary stuff. Revere has a lot of history. Yeah. And they brought a lot of stuff in there. There are spirits of children. There are spirits. There's all kinds of stuff. In fact, I was there with my son, not for a paranormal investigation, but to use the bathroom.
Oh,
And we were there with some of the members of our team. One of the guys on our team sort of runs the museum, or is on the board of the museum, so he can get in. And we were out doing some stuff, and his daughter was there, and they said, geez, we're going to use the bathroom. So we went over to the museum, and he's sitting there, and he keeps saying, Dad, something's touching my leg. Something's touching my leg. And of course, you're fine. You're fine.
yeah.
And we pulled out a recorder and, just sort of asked some questions. And when I got back and listened to it, it said on the recorder, hey, the kids are here. Give them a slap.
Wow.
And that was a little, it wasn't very nice. That was a little bit frightening, actually. And I, from that moment on, I'm not bringing my 8-year-old into this building anymore. But it's a public museum. I mean, it's a museum. But I just, he was getting
that.
I don't screw around with the kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Do whatever you want to me, but leave the kids out.
Do whatever you want with me, but leave the kids out of it for sure. Yeah.
That's like my daughter. She absolutely loves going on ghost hunts, but her imagination gets the best of her sometimes, and she tends to she gets excited.
How old is she?
She's 12.
Okay, so she's older, yeah. Because Nicholas will be 9 in a couple of weeks, but but still, it's you don't know. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And he still sometimes gets a little. Last night he went to bed kind of late because it was vacation, and I was exhausted. I went to bed and I shut the lights off. He says, "I'm not asleep yet. Don't shut the lights off." Sorry, dude. I got to go to bed. I can't stand it.
Yeah, right. I gotta go. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So Julie's asking, Chris, what was your most memorable reading?
Oh wow. My most memorable reading. There's different ones that stand out over the years. But my most memorable. That's a great question. I don't think I've been asked that before. I don't know. There's bits and pieces of different readings that I find that are very incredible. I guess the one that really stands out most though is I was doing a reading for a young lady who had lost her fiance, and her fiance came through thankfully, and he was talking about different things and describing himself and really making sure his presence was known. And then I said, he's showing me being in a car, and I'm looking through the roof, the sunroof, and I just see stars. And I was like, and there's one star that's brighter, or it's a little bit brighter than the other ones. And she completely broke down, and she was like, that's the most incredible thing anybody's ever said to me. And I said, well, you don't have to tell me. I was like, because it's not really my business, but why is that? And she said, because the last night I spent with my fiance, we were in the back seat of my car, and we were looking up through the sunroof, and he pointed up to one of the stars, and he said, that's the one I'm going to buy for you. So that was, and I almost cried myself. I was just like, I was so touched. So that one stands out very, very vividly in my mind.
And again, you don't know why they're giving you that. It's not our business to know. You're just the pass through. You're just the vessel through which the message is sent. And she got that message that day that, look, he's still there. He's watching over you. It's just truly an amazing gift to be able to give to somebody,
It really is. It really is.
Let's see. I was in a gallery. Julie's saying, I was in a gallery reading of yours before we met, and you made contact with my husband. You had information about conversations that only he and I were privy with. That was amazing. And, I remember that because I was sitting with her, and that was actually up in Maine at Parafest. Julie's husband had passed quite a few years earlier, and you had talked about, well, first of all, she and I had talked about it on the way up, that he had never come through. And talked about certain things that, he had said to her. And you had mentioned something about a tie or something, and she'd be able to tell you better. But I remember being kind of blown away, and I do this, and I still get amazed, when I see someone else pull it off. It's just incredible that you the information that you get, and it's so meaningful to these people. Chris, I want to take a couple of minutes because it's now 5 minutes of one. I want this to be your time. I want to have you just chat to people and tell them, again, how they can reach out to you. What are your readings like? How booked out are you? That kind of thing. How can they reach you for? And because folks, I'm telling you, I do this, and I've had a reading by Chris. He's phenomenal. And a reading is like that is life-changing. It really, truly is. So Chris, feel free to just chat about yourself a little bit.
Well, thank you very much, Scott. You're incredible as well. The best way people can get a hold of me is through Facebook right now. So Psychic Medium Christopher /Facebook.com. When I sit down with folks as a medium, my main focus is to connect them with people who've passed away. I know a lot of people want to hear about finance and they want to hear about relationships and things like that. And I feel that if your loved ones want to give you that information, they will. And so I give them that platform to be able to do that. So, sometimes people are like, well, I want just a psychic reading. And I'm like, all right, we can do that. And then inevitably spirit always comes through. So I just tell people right away that that's my main focus, is connecting you with those who've passed. Right now I can do phone readings. I can do house visits. I no longer have an office space. Unfortunately, the building that I was in is compromised. They were selling it and I wasn't able to keep the space. But I can make house visits and I can make phone calls. And, for folks that are on the fence about phone readings, I find them to be just as powerful as in person. It's just really personal preference, whether you want to sit across from somebody or whether you want to be on the phone. I think that covers. I'll be at Parafest this year. So definitely hope to see everybody there. And hopefully we'll get some events booked in before then. And, we'll get some exciting things going.
That's great. And I think we do have Matt on the phone. I hope it's Matt. Matt, are you there?
I'm calling about your extended warranty.
Oh, no. I'm not interested. Click. No.
Yeah.
Matt, I've got Chris on the phone as well. So thanks for joining us. Yeah. I'll tell you what.
How you doing?
I'm doing well.
I'm going to take a short break because I've got to get in a couple of announcements for the radio station. So, Matt, if you hang on 1 second, it's about a minute long. We'll do that, and then we'll pick up where we left off. So if you hold on just one moment, please.
Psychic Helios for angelic Reiki, psychic readings, and angel card readings at www.psychichelios.com. Radio advertisement for any company or organization will help increase sales. Here at Pulse Talk Radio, we have low price advertisement packages which will promote your business and be heard by thousands of online listeners globally every day. We can have your advertisement jingle professionally produced for you. We will even put your banner on our website for an extra £20 per year. A sponsorship page for just £85 per year. For more information, contact our sales team at salesteam@pulsetalkradio.com. Contact us today and see what Pulse Talk Radio can do for you.
Kindred Spirit Investigations. Experience the unexplained. Book your tickets now at www.kindredspiritinvestigations.co.uk.
www.allansweeney.com. Learn Reiki with one of the UK's first Reiki masters. And for you angels, www.secretsofangelsOnearth.com.
And we are back with Matt Warner from Warner Paranormal Preservation Society, and also Chris Brown is helping me co-host today, so I'm so glad to have you both here. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Tell us a little. You got some stuff going on. I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about it. I've been watching all of your posts, and you've got some really interesting things happening in your life. So tell us a little bit what's going on with you.
So as of the past, I've been running this. So I've been a paranormal investigator for a very long time under the radar, and I've had my own team, Warner Paranormal Explorers, for a few years. And my whole driving force and passion for what I do in the paranormal has always been history. and the architecture of the buildings. And then the ghosts have always been a bonus to me. So what I've been fortunate enough to find right now is preservation within the paranormal. There's a location not far from where I grew up and where I live that is a lovely location, and I've known about it for many years and rumored to be haunted. And I've been working in the background, underground radar, so to speak, for the past year, trying to get access to this location. A friend of mine was fortunate enough to get in there about 10-ish years ago, and he told me stories about it. The building itself was built in 1899 for Civil War veterans, for a place for them to get together with their families, swap stories, and act as a community hall type of a center. And it's been in business ever since. So for quite some time, I was trying to get myself in there, and they didn't really want it. They didn't want anything to do with me coming in there and running paranormal events, because to the outsiders, paranormal has a bad kind of vibe.
Right.
And try to explain to them that it's not what you see on TV. It's not kind of like that. It's a very respectful field for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
At least when it comes to locations, the people is a whole other story for a whole other show. But so I wound up going to one of the meetings that they held there. Explained what I do, what I'd like to do for them, and help them raise funds to keep this building going. And took a little bit of convincing, a lot of elbow grease and volunteering, but now here we are, and I'm running the location. We've had a few events already. We've got a bunch more booked, and everybody's loving their time at this location. So now we're able to put our passion into preserving the history of this location, as well as doing research, and everything is great.
Which is really, we were just talking about that a little while ago. This is really what it's all about, right? I mean, a lot of times they just bulldoze these buildings, and all you have left is a memory. But to be able to take it, preserve it, and we're doing that through the paranormal, through the ghost hunts and things that we're doing. Are you involved with, or do you think you'll be involved with National Ghost Hunting Day, the world's largest ghost hunt this year, in order to raise funds for the hall?
That is something that is on my short list to do, yes. I was supposed to be a part of it last year. Mm-hmm. Last year, I was supposed to actually be overseas at that time, so I was going to try to line something up, and I wasn't able to do it. So this year, now that I have the location, there's no reason I can't and won't do it. Beautiful. I just have to reach out to the organizers and say, hey, this is what we're going to do, and I'm here, and that would be quite fun to do.
In a couple of weeks, we're going to be talking with Maria Schmidt, who is the founder of National Ghost Hunting Day and the world's largest ghost hunt. So I had mentioned to her the other day that I was having you on the show, and she asked if that was something you were doing. And I said, I don't know, but that's one of the questions I'm going to ask. I think that's great. You wrote to me that you were born and raised in the Bridgewater Triangle, and tell me a little bit about that, because that has a reputation all of its own.
So the Bridgewater Triangle is a roughly 200 square mile area in southeastern Massachusetts that has all the lore that you could ever want in terms of paranormal and supernatural. We'll go outside of the paranormal because you've got cryptids, you've got UFOs, all the reports, and there's no real rhyme or reason or science behind it. The term was coined in the 70s by Lauren Coleman, who's a well-known cryptozoologist from Maine. And he was investigating a lot of different claims. There's been all sorts of claims in the area. And the triangle, the tip of the triangle, the northern tip is actually Abington, which is where I'm from. And then it goes down as far southeast as Freetown, southwest over to Rehoboth, and that kind of creates the triangle. Now the borders obviously are a little bit blurred because you got places like the Oliver House that's just right around the edge of it, and the Oliver House is extremely active as well. So the epicenter of the triangle itself is the Hockomock Swamp, which is 16,000 acres, give or take, body of water and swampland. And there's a lot of history here from King Philip's War, and a lot went down. So there's been reports of all sorts of different things here. And I think that maybe that might be a big reason why I grew up having experiences and seeing things, because I've been around it. Just didn't know. Yeah, I would think. If you grow up having some kind of connection to the paranormal and you're living in Bridgewater, or in the middle of the Bridgewater Triangle, that's pretty amazing. You're bound to have something going on down there. Have you explored the Hockomock Swamp at all? I have, yes. A few years back, with a prior group, we went out. There was an organized group hunt for the Bridgewater Triangle. It was an event that was put together, and we chose to go out into the swamp that night. The issue with going out into the swamp is there's a million ways in, and you really have no idea where you're going. So the route we took, we wound up. I mean, we had some experiences out there. We heard some sort of animal noises that didn't make sense. Now, I don't know what they were. I don't think they were Bigfoot, to be quite honest with you, but they weren't anything I'd ever heard before.
Interesting.
And one thing we were able to figure out there is where we were, there was high tension lines, and they were crushing the EMF meters. So we realized, okay, a lot of experiences people have in this area are likely due to that.
Mm-hmm.
So put people's mind at ease with that. But I did see at one point some glowing red eyes about 1.5 feet, 2 foot tall, maybe 20 yards out in front of me that we tried to catch, and it disappeared.
Oh, wow.
Again, it could have been an animal. Who knows?
Right.
I'm very skeptical. I'm a skeptical believer is my term. I believe everything I see, of course, but you guys, everyone else has to prove themselves to me. So even I try to debunk everything that I come across because I don't want to sound crazy, and I also don't want to believe that everything's supernatural.
Right.
But that's how it is, right? And we were talking about earlier how, Chris is a medium, I'm a medium, and we talk about whether we use this on an investigation, and to a certain extent we do, but you want to have it backed up by the evidence. And I think that's the thing that we strive for, is to really get that piece of evidence that you could say undeniably, this is it. It's too easy to just say, oh yeah, it's got to be, whatever you think it is,
And that's the hard part, is convincing people, because you could have, grade A evidence, and there's still going to be that one person that doesn't believe you.
Yeah,
100%.
That gets so frustrating. And years ago, I gave up on trying to prove anything to anyone. And I'll tell you, it brought so much joy back into paranormal for me because I was burnt out.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care if people believe me anymore. I don't care if people like me anymore. Like, I'm doing this for my own reasons. And now I get to help save buildings. So
I love that.
That's cool with me.
I love that. So, obviously that's one of the things you're working on, is saving the buildings, and what other goals do you have coming up that you know?
So I have a couple of trips coming up. I'll be heading over to Scotland May 2nd through the 10th. And while I'm over there, I'm going to check out Edinburgh Castle, the Edinburgh Vault.
Nice.
There's also a very famous cemetery over there that I can't think of the name of right now, but lots of claims there. So I'll be checking that out. Then in July, I'm going to Broken Bow Asylum.
Where's that?
And that is in Oklahoma.
Okay. Nice.
That's a newer one to the field. In the past couple of years or so, I'm going out there for a weekend. Then August, I'm going to Eloise out in Detroit, which has been on my bucket list for a while. That's another big old asylum. And then September, I'll be in Ohio. I have a wedding, but it's actually at Landall's Mohican Castle, which is known to be haunted. So get to check that out.
Nice.
And in October, we have all kinds of things because it's October.
Oh, and it's October, and we do. Yeah, we're going to Scotland too. We're going to Scotland in July. We leave July 9th. So we're also going to Edinburgh Castle and the vaults, and so I'm anxious to see what kind of experiences you have while you're out there in May. That'd be fun to watch. Are you going to be? I'm sure you'll be posting and everything as you're going, which you usually do.
Absolutely. I'll try to go live from over there. That'll be a big one for me to be over there.
May, have you investigated over in Europe before?
I've actually not. No. So when I was in Iceland last summer, I didn't get to investigate, but we went to, I can't pronounce the name of the house because it's in Iceland, but the most haunted house in Iceland we did go to.
Nice.
It's documented and known to be haunted, and they had some sort of Cold War peace meeting there in the 80s, and it was some of the diplomats that were there were very spooked out to be there. So this is quite the history, and I didn't have enough time to figure out who I needed to talk to get inside, but being there was pretty cool. Some of the cemeteries that we went to over there were incredible as well.
I would imagine. So you had mentioned about talking about some things that you'd like to see change in the field. What are you thinking of when you talk about those sorts of things?
I mean, there's a lot that, in my opinion, needs to change. I feel that people they're not supportive. People pretend to be supportive. That's what I'm noticing more. And I put up something the other day, the difference between a follower and a supporter. People see these numbers. It's like, oh, they got 70,000 followers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but how many of those people are actually supporting you? It's not that hard to like a page, follow a page. But if you're not actually supporting that person, you're not that important. Mm-hmm. And we all are guilty of it. We're all guilty of being couch critics for everything in life. So I'm not perfect either, but at the end of the day, everyone is trying so hard to impress everyone else with their EVPs and their pictures. The one thing that I will say I cannot stand is when people put up a picture, they blow it up, it's pixelated out of control, then they put a red circle and say, "What do you see?" Because I see nothing.
I see
nothing in your picture. I will be the first to admit I never see anything in pictures, so maybe I just don't have that ability, but I would be willing to guess 99.9% of the time there is nothing in the pictures. It's pareidolia.
Right.
That being said, these people putting all that out are trying way too hard, and I don't understand it. Even the people that have or had TV shows, they're still grinding and still trying, and God bless them if that's their driving force. I realize it's not my driving force. I don't edit. I can't stand it. I like to do live streams, and that's about it. So for me, I like to focus on having fun. I also realized early on that when I would focus on filming, I lose out on everything going around me because I'm focused on the camera lens.
Yeah.
So I decided I'm not doing that anymore. There was a period of time, the past couple of years, I've traveled everywhere and I've done tons of investigations, and I learned a lot about it. I learned what I did and didn't like, equipment I do and don't like, aspects of what I do and don't like, and also people I do and don't like. So my advice to everybody is just do what you enjoy doing and for yourself.
I agree.
Stop trying to impress everybody, because people at the end of the day, they don't care. Right. You could post a ghost eating dinner with you, 100% real, and most people don't care. They just see it and be like, "Yeah, it's a piece full of crap."
Yeah, it's so true. It's true.
Yeah, unfortunately, somebody is always going to have something to say.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You're never going to please everybody, and you're going to drive yourself crazy trying to make everybody happy, and you can't. So the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can get back to doing it for yourself and why you do it.
Right. And that's why, I mean, I do it for me. I don't do it. I'm not really trying to amass a following of thousands of people, because what's the point? I want to share what I get. If we get something really cool, I'd like to share it. But generally speaking, I just, for me, it's a social thing. I love being out with good friends and doing what we love to do and seeing what we get, So, tell me a little bit about Heart Stuff Hall, because we're going in August. I'm really looking forward to that. What kinds of things have you experienced there?
The beautiful thing about this place is every time we're there, something happens. And I'm not one of those people that's going to say, "Oh, this place is the most haunted place you're ever going to go." This place is super active, and it has never let me down. And I'll be the first to admit, I do get spooked out pretty easily. And I think that's a big reason why I like to ghost hunt, because I like the feeling of fear. Fight or flight, you never know. And there are times I flight. I'm like, "See you later. I'm not dealing with this right now." So when I go to the hall by myself, I try to go during the day, because at night I'm not interested in being there by myself. But so I'll give you the most recent example. It's a good energy. There's nothing scary in there. There has been so many things held in this hall over the years. It served as a day school at one point in time. They've had weddings in there. They've had a few funerals in there, and the ballroom is massive. They've had all these events there over the years. So all this energy is going to stay. It's going to bounce around. But just the other night when we were there, we had an Easter egg and ghost hunt for little kids, which went really well. And we were ahead of the schedule, waiting for people to show up, sitting in the main room. And we heard, clear as day, all of us, footsteps kind of hightailing it up the stairs in the foyer up to the second floor. We all look at each other like, "Okay, did you hear that?" And one of my friends ran up the stairs. As soon as he walked into the ballroom, he was looking around, and one of the folding wooden chairs, the seat lifted up on itself and folded itself up right in front of him.
Wow.
And he's awesome. Holy crap. And I'm like, we're like, "What happened?" And he's like, "You're not even going to believe it." And that was just that one instance. We've had experiences pretty much in every room on every floor. One of the experiences that we were told about is happened in the kitchen of all places. And the kitchen is very nondescript, boring kitchen. It's not like, this cool antique kitchen. It's updated. But one of the reenactors that uses the hall here and there was coming into the kitchen one day. And as he was walking in, he described it as like, it looked like someone had put like thumbprints on his glasses and he was kind of foggy. So he glanced and he saw a soldier standing next to the stove. And as he looked, the soldier went right through the floor into the basement.
Oh my gosh.
And this is one of those people, he doesn't tell stories. He's 6'5", this gentle. His name is Big Bear. He's a huge man. very, very nice guy, and not someone that's going to tell you a lie. So that was his story. The first time I actually was in the building by myself, I was getting ready for some friends to come in, and I was like, I'm going to go Facebook Live, then I don't feel alone. So I'm talking to everybody, and I'm walking around the first floor. I was like, I'll take everybody for a tour. And I go out into the foyer. I'm walking up the stairs to the second floor, and I hear something behind me. So I turn and I look, and I'm like, I hear you. I don't know what you're doing. I get to the top of the landing, and right behind me, right up the steps, rushed right up behind me. And I will tell you, I puckered, and I jumped and turned around, and I was like, I don't know what was going on here. And the viewers that were watching could hear the footsteps as well.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That will get me going. Then as I walked into the ballroom is this big grand parquet floor. So you walk and you can hear your footsteps. And I stopped in the middle, and then you just kept hearing footsteps going in each direction. I'm like, all right, guys, I'm sorry I bothered your party. Just here to show off the building. That same night in the ballroom, it was only 4 of us in there, and we're all sitting in different spots. And my teammate Courtney was sitting down, and we're filming. We were doing like a ghost box photo session, and right behind her, one of those wooden chairs slammed up very loud, and she jumped and ran across that room, and it was loud, and we couldn't figure out what it was. And then we replicated it, and it was the same thing. It's one of those folding chairs, the bottom of it being put back up.
Wow.
So there's something up there, and we've had experiences in the attic. I was doing an Estes method session, which for those that don't know, it's when you have noise canceling headphones on, a blindfold, and you're listening to the spirit box going through the station. And they were asking questions. I had no idea what I was saying, but we were interacting with a little child. And at one point, something grabbed my arm very well. And through that spirit session, we got one of our devices. They were interacting with that, answering questions with it. And something called me daddy as we were doing this session. We have that recorded as well.
Oh, boy.
We haven't put up a ton of our evidence. I've got some of the clips on the YouTube channel that we have. But we have so much to go through. We just film while we're there, and it's a matter like I could watch it for 10 minutes and get 10 little clips of
Yeah. What is your YouTube channel, Matt? Where can people watch this stuff if they want to check it out?
That stuff is the YouTube channel is Warner Paranormal Explorers. That's all the social medias, and then the Warner Paranormal Preservation Society is the page for the Heart Stuff Hall and the event.
Gotcha. Okay. So are they still using that hall like otherwise? I mean, are they the Masonic hall?
It was never a Masonic hall, but the Masons, the Odd Fellows had stored things there over the years. We actually have a casket with skeleton in it that's residing in the attic, which is perfect. It's been used by many different groups over the years as rental space. But right now, the only group that uses it is a group of Civil War reenactors. I want to say it's the Mass 22nd, but it's the Sons of the Union War veterans. Yeah, I think it's SUVW. It's a lot of letters, and I always get it wrong, and they're probably going to yell at me. But they're the ones that run the hall now, and the group running the hall is the Heart Stuff Memorial Association, which I'm a member of. And
nice.
General Hartstuff was a Civil War general that commanded many troops from this local area that grew up around here, and that's why they named the hall after him.
Nice. You know, I mean, it's a great thing that you're in there doing what you do, because where else is the money coming from? You know what I mean? Unless they're renting it out for functions and things like that, you know, where would this place be in 20 years? You know, it's just great that you're. That's
kind of how I came into it, because due to COVID, everybody suffered due to COVID. We all realized that, but the hall itself is one of those places that, can't hold events because no one can get together anymore.
Right.
They got to a point where they had no income and no cash flow coming in. So that's why I presented this idea, and it was kind of the right place, right time, and it just worked out well. And they're happy with me over there. I'm happy to be there. We all love being in the building, and
that's great.
Yeah,
it's one of only 5 wooden halls left in Massachusetts. It's on the National Historic Registry of Deeds too.
That's awesome.
So that's the best part about it. Every one of these members has had experience.
Oh, wow.
Except for one guy, and the one guy, he's the one that I had to win over to get to be in there. And he's always asking, what have you been having in here? He's like, really? He's like, I've been in here for 20 years. I've never had anything. I said, maybe you're not paying close enough attention.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Some of the experiences they've had. One of the guys, he spends a lot of time in there fixing up things, and he was in the main room, which we call the war room.
Mm-hmm.
And he was doing some sanding on the walls for paint, had all the doors closed, and the men's room door kept opening. And he'd go over and he'd shut it. He'd go over and he'd shut it. He did it 3 times, and after that, he said, I'm not going to even worry about this door anymore. He also, same guy, he witnessed the lower half of an apparition. Oh, no, either I think it might have been the upper half. A half-bodied apparition shoot up and around the staircase. And we've also witnessed that. We've witnessed it in a different form. And the first night we did an investigation there with our group, we were in this room, and I glanced out of my peripheral, and I saw like a white, shadowy wisp go through the doorway towards the stairs. And I looked. My buddy looked. He goes, "You see that?" I sure did. My friend's wife said, "I saw it earlier." Okay. Come to find out, I was talking to one of the members the other day, and when this place was built, there was a local Confederate soldier that lived in the area, and he would try to go to the meetings, and they would not let him in. They would not let him into the meetings because it was a Union hall. And he would sit in that foyer area and wait until the meeting was over. After the meeting was over, they would let him in. So my theory is that it's him sitting there, waiting, and just reliving every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
I haven't found out the name yet. I have to contact that historian again because that was a quick little tidbit that I thought of after I talked to him. Like, damn, I should have asked him about that because it makes sense.
Right. So where did the casket with the bones in it come from? And was that there, or is that something you brought in?
No, that was actually there. That was something years, probably 20 plus years ago. The Oddfellows,
yeah.
Throughout Massachusetts, a few different lodges closed, and one of our members is an Oddfellow, so they reached out to him and they're like, "Can we store stuff there?" And they did, and then they were like, "We don't want this stuff. Like, just leave it there." So it's just sat there, and I had a friend come out and go through some of the stuff not long ago because he's a collector and a dealer. So he bought the stuff. He tried to buy the skeleton, and I said, "You're not buying that. That's fake."
And that's like a real skeleton. I mean, how old is it? Who is it? It must be one of their members from who knows when.
So the skeleton itself, it's one of the paper mache ones. It's not a real skeleton.
Okay. Gotcha.
The
Bummer.
medicine is a real deal coffin. Trust me, I know. If it was a real skeleton, it would probably be at my house. I would have bought it from him already. But you'd be surprised the value on even just the paper mache one, because it is old. He said it's probably at least from the 70s, if not older. That's 50 years.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It just adds that mystique to the attic.
Yeah,
People walk into the attic and you come around and say, "Holy shit, there's a casket in here?" It's like, yeah, it's
right.
inside.
When I was at the Zach Vagans Museum, and he's a little bit of hype and hyperbole, but he did have the Oddfellows room with the bones, and they were real bones. So that's why I was fascinated when you said you had that. I thought, geez, where would you get something like that? Because you said you have a collection of some oddities and things. What is your what is that all about? What are you doing with those things? Do you store them or show them or?
So my living room is kind of like a catch-all for everything. I'm a fortunate and unfortunate if I live alone, so I can do whatever I want. I have no supervision.
Mm-hmm.
So my living room is everything for me. But I have I collect Ouija boards.
Oh wow!
I have quite a few of those, and I like to collect. I don't call them haunted items. I call them enchanted because people hear haunted and they think they're scary. So over the years, I've had people messaging me, contacting me. This is haunted. Can you take it? I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. That's fine. And almost everything that people have given me I've never felt anything off of it. So it's all in my living room. So I have all that stuff. I have, I'm trying to think of some of the other strange things I have. I have just so much stuff. I'm trying to picture it.
Wow.
I collect. I have a lot of bones and skulls. No, nothing human yet. There's too much money nowadays. The human bone market has gone through the roof. But like we're in a very wooded area, so we find skulls and things like that all the time, like animals and what have you. But we have. I'm trying to think some of the weirder things. I have a lot of stuff from the abandoned hospitals that I've explored too. Things like that. Like I'll keep doorknobs and stuff like that. Just little knickknacks and slate from the roof. Stuff that no one's going to miss.
So is that, have you noticed any activity in your own home brought in with any of the objects, or is it pretty just benign?
So I've had experiences, even prior when I first moved in there.
Mm-hmm.
So the apartment that I live in, it's in a house. The house is about 110 years old. And it was haunted when I moved in. There's a residual.
Okay.
That for the first couple of weeks I lived there, about 10:30 every night, it walks through the kitchen, from the door into the kitchen. And the first couple times I saw it, it was out of my side eye. I was like, what the hell is that? And then I started paying attention, and I realized what was going on. It's like, whatever, you know. At the time, no one lived on the second floor, and every night there'd be bootsteps walking around up there. I'm like, well, you stay right up there. You don't bother me, I won't bother you.
Right.
As I started bringing more objects into the house, things did happen more often. So I have two items that actually have a lot of energy to them. One of them is a doll that was left in a friend's truck as a warning. And she is what I say, the matriarch energy of the entire house. She runs the roost. No one else gets involved. Anytime I've gotten a new item, what I like to do is bring it into the house, and then I would do a Facebook Live reveal to everybody, and we'd kind of put some equipment out and see what we can get from it. And anytime that has happened since I brought her in, it winds up being her energy that comes through. And it's kind of like, listen, you've got center stage. You can let us be now, but she's the one that has the most energy. And then I have something that has negative energy, which brought a very scary experience to my daughter when she was little, which actually got her into investigating with me. And it was a set of paintings that was found in the trash. And they were brought into my house, came home one night, and I was like, what are these things? And, they found in the trash. I said, whatever. Went to bed that night, got up in the middle of the night, go to the bathroom. I walk into the bathroom, and I see like this marble-sized white ball of light that's doing like a figure eight in front of me. And I'm like, it's probably just a car driving by, the light in the window. And there's no windows in the bathroom, but your subconscious sleepy mind, you think, it's nothing. So turn around, go back to my bedroom, and I see the same thing going on in the living room. And I'm like, whatever, go back to sleep. So I get up the next morning, and I ask my daughter, I said, how'd you sleep? And I do ask her every morning. She goes, I didn't sleep at all. I said, what happened? Well, there was a demon standing at my bed. I said, what do you mean? And this is, we're not like, we don't watch Ghost Adventures, so it's not like she was watching Zach talk about demons.
Right.
Like, it was there. And I was like, well, what happened? And she said, I just turned, and it looked like black hair and these big black eyes staring at me. I couldn't talk, and I tried to get you, and you wouldn't wake up. So I just rolled over and tried to go to sleep. I said, oh, gosh. And so I woke up later, and I looked towards the bathroom, and I could see it standing in the doorway, filling the doorway, looking at me. So at that point, I said, I want you to draw exactly what you saw, write it all out. Then it clicked with me. Maybe when I got up to go to the bathroom, I saw it in energy form, and she saw it how it looked. And we just have a different perspective on things because she's young and doesn't have the distractions that we as adults have.
How old's your daughter, Matt?
When this happened, I think she was 8 when this happened. She'll be 12 in a couple of weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She was really young, but the way she described it, this thing had 10 fingers on each hand and had almond-shaped black eyes, black hair. Kind of looked like one of those creepy kids from The Grudge. That's how she drew it.
Yeah.
Wow. Almost seems alien-like, you know?
It was weird. And these drawings that she did, thankfully I take pictures of everything, the drawings disappeared. I've never found them since. And I don't have a big place. So there's only a few places I would have put them. They're gone. But thankfully I had taken pictures of it. I posted them on Instagram prior. And I have them printed out because I take them to conventions when we tell the story. And so that changed her perspective. So those paintings had to go. But I couldn't get rid of them because I'm too fascinated by these experiences. So I put them in the basement, and we don't go near them. I've only handled them twice, and I brought them to conventions, and I really don't like touching them. But
I was going to say, Matt, didn't you bring them to Parafest?
Yes, I did. The first Parafest.
Yep. I remember those paintings. They're very unsettling.
Yep. They were something, weren't they?
Yeah.
Wow, it's fascinating. Yeah, because last time I was at Parafest, you were set up right next to Satori and Cody with all of their stuff, and of course, they're amassing. They've got the name, but they are amassing, their museum of I guess the same kind of thing, oddities and objects. And do you see yourself going that route, grabbing more and creating something a little more? Like a museum type thing, or do you think is it more or less just for your own personal?
At one point that was kind of the goal. I kind of wanted to have a little museum, but I feel like it's so cliche to do that now because everybody else has it. And that's not a knock on anyone that's doing it.
No.
Cody and Satori are great friends of mine, and they are light years ahead of where I'm going to be at with that. And I love what they're doing. And So for me right now, it's definitely just because I like that stuff, and it's fun for me to talk about. It's experiences that I have. I can bring them to conventions, put them on my table.
Right.
Overall, end goal, I do have a goal for these things, but it's not going to be a museum. It's going to be something a little different, which I haven't talked about because I don't want anyone stealing my idea.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think that's great. Your paranormal research center, is that the Hard Stuff Hall, or is that something different that you're doing?
That's the Hard Stuff Hall. Yep, that's the first one. I have a few more that I'm working on. There should be a second one available any day now. It's gone through the right channels. It's a matter of getting it ready, and it's an old home. Another one built right around the turn of the 20th century. So
nice.
Over 100 years old. Couple of documented deaths in the house, and I had investigated it before, and it was active. I don't know how active it's going to be in comparison to the hall, but It's only a 10-minute drive. And my goal with the Preservation Society is to create an umbrella around the South Shore of Massachusetts with all these different locations that we can help, preserve, and also people can come and do their research at.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
And if you're interested, when you get something, you get in there and get things going. Maybe we can record an episode, of the show right from the location and try to draw some attention to it. Who knows?
I'm always up to things like that. Absolutely.
I think that's great. Anything we can do to kind of raise money and focus on some of these older buildings is just phenomenal. You've been up. I mean, I'm sure you've been up to Wilson Castle, and
I do a big fundraiser every year up there in October. I love that place.
I think it's great. Yeah, we're going up in June, but she's been able to do, Denise has done some amazing stuff up there with the money she's raised through the paranormal investigations. If she had relied just on the tours, I don't know that she would have been able to do that the same way.
No, I definitely don't think so. She's done really well up there, and they deserve it. They're very good people.
They are great people. Yep.
Yeah, sweethearts.
And we have a blast.
Yeah. What do you do with your fundraiser? What's your fundraiser? How does that work?
So this year will be the third one we've done. So it's the bash at the castle that I do every October, and it's usually the weekend before Halloween. So this year it's October 22nd. And what it is I invite a group of my close personal paranormal friends, and we put on a big event. And what we use it for is people that want to investigate with. I don't like to use the word pros, but the people that do this stuff. They come, they buy tickets. We do VIP overnight tickets. We do regular general admission tickets. We serve food, and you're allowed to drink at it. And we have fun, and we just let loose and enjoy ourselves. I use it for myself as a reward for a busy year coming to a close to have a good time. And every year it gets more debaucherous, but we have such a good time doing it. And the guests always have a blast. Because I go to a lot of events. I've done a lot of events. I don't like structure very much. I like having a plan, but not, okay, you're going to have 25 minutes in this room, time to move.
Right.
All right. Now your group is going to go with these two. It's like, no, it's a free for all. You want to hang out with me? Cool. You don't want to? Go with them. That's totally fine. We're just going to run amok and respect each other's investigation skills and go from there. And it works out well. It's very fun. It's not serious. I don't like serious events. So that's what we do up there. And then the money goes right back to the castle.
That's great. And like I said, she's been doing some great work. They just had that floor fixed, and there was a big hole in the floor in the living room when you walk in, and she's had that fixed. And I know she's been working on a bunch of stuff. So that's really, really phenomenal. Can't wait to get back.
It was great to be able to walk up to the fireplace and look at the window. Because the window over the fireplace has a lot of finite details that you couldn't see from afar. And now it's awesome.
Last time I was there, you couldn't walk in the room at all. I mean, it was completely open. First time I went there, it was just the fireplace was closed off. So it'll be nice this year to get in and really, really, like you say, be able to walk right up nice and close.
Mm-hmm.
So what else have you got going on that you'd like to share with us? I know you got this new place you got going, and potentially, and what else you have going on? I mean, you're booked up there too, right? I mean, you're pretty booked up. I know that we booked August, and you were really just like going crazy right through the end of the July, right?
Yeah, we've got a lot of good things coming up. We've got an event this Saturday coming up with Becky Galentine, who's known as My Bloody Galentine on social media. That's her first ever event, and we're really excited to have her. She's great. She's a lot of fun to hang out with and go something with. So
she's on my show in a few weeks. I think maybe mid to late May or something. She's going to be on the show. We're bringing her on. I'm really excited to talk with her because she's an embalmer. and a funeral director, and as am I. I have been in the funeral business for 35 years, so I own 3 funeral homes. So when she and I talked, it was sort of like this. Oh my God, I didn't know anybody else in the world did this. Because typically you want to. I was always taught to shy away from anything that could give some sort of opinion that you're not doing things that are serious. You know what I mean, with related to death. So I kind of kept myself away from it until I got out of the industry. But she's doing it and she's making it work.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to chat with her. So she's doing an event. What's that?
I was going to say, so you're who I need to talk to about funerary items, because that's some of the oddities I like.
Yeah, and you know, Matt, I used to own, and I could kick myself because when I was in the funeral business, I didn't pay attention to this. I could have donated so much. I have this, when you go to Wilson Castle and you go up in the ballroom and they've got that wicker carrying case. It's not really a coffin. People carried a coffin, but it's not. It's a transfer case. I had one of those. I owned it. And I left it with the business when I left because I thought, well, what am I going to do with it? I don't want it in my house. I don't. And now I wish I had it, but I don't. So So funeral stuff. I mean, if I hear of anything, people sometimes will reach out to me and say, I've got this old thing, but it's that was really a great piece that we had, and it was in mint condition. Would have been a great piece for a museum or some kind of exhibit.
Well, I have an autopsy table for a kitchen table, so that's where my mindset goes.
Oh my God!
I got that at a funeral estate sale last year, and it's stainless steel, so it's the most hygienic piece of equipment you can have. And people come over, they're like, "Dude, I'm not eating off that." And it's like 5 minutes later, they're eating dinner off my table. I get a kick out of it. Yeah,
well, you've watched it a couple of times, I think. Since
of course I have.
It came in the door, but yeah, it's kind of. It is a little creepy. I mean, but the funny thing is having lived in it, I know people that have, they get the hearse, they soup it up, they put their DJ equipment in the back. And, I drove a hearse for years. I for work, I don't get excited by it. I don't get excited by hearses or autopsy tables or anything, just because that's just, it's been a part of my life. It's part of my business. It's been a part of what I've done for years and years and years. But, for someone that collects this stuff, it's interesting. There's a place, and I don't remember where it is, but it's an old funeral home that you can investigate in. Have you been there? Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you been there at all? Is that somewhere in Midwest or something?
Yeah, that's in Pennsylvania. It's Greenville Manor. That's Marcus Haig and his girlfriend. They own and run that. That opened up maybe 6 months ago, we'll call it, because I don't want to get the dates wrong. But he's doing great things over there. He's a good friend of mine.
Oh, that's great. I may look at that Greenville Manor. I'd be interested in going and check that out. having been in the business, because I owned a haunted funeral home, and interestingly enough, we were at SK Pierce in Gardner the other night. I was talking with Marion, and my funeral home, I had built one from the ground up in 1998. I built it on this land that was owned by the Diocese of Worcester. And there was an old home there that was pretty much a sister home to the SK Pierce mansion. It was the same kind of thing, but it had burned down 100+ years earlier. And so when we went in to build a new building, we found the foundation and we dug it out. And we found shoes and pots and pans and bottles from pharmacies. And then we built the building and we got in there and we realized that the place is haunted. And there's, you hear people going up and down the stairs. I think it's all residual. But stuff, you can hear them walking across the ceiling. If you're downstairs, you can hear them on the second floor walking around. And, that was my first experience with the paranormal. And it never bothered me. There was never any kind of interaction or anything that was scary, but it's definitely haunted. And so I'm anxious to kind of maybe take a trip down there and check that place out.
It sounds like it's pretty active from all I hear. I hear a lot of good things.
Really? Now, do you think it's active because of the work that was it? Because I don't feel like my funeral home would have been active except for, and I've been in and out of funeral homes for years. Lots of people have died and had their services there, but I didn't feel like they were haunted. Mine was haunted specifically because of the building that was there, I believe. What do you think the situation is down there? Do you think it's haunted because of the history or the business, or what have they said?
I think a lot of times with the funeral homes, they happen to be haunted because they're in Victorian era homes, which have been around forever. I don't believe that the person that's already deceased coming into a home to be waked or anything is going to make the place haunted, because their energy is already wherever they left it.
Yeah.
That being said, it doesn't mean it couldn't happen, but I don't think it's because it's that business. Most funeral homes are Victorian era homes. It's just
A lot of them are, and if that one is, that would make sense. Yep.
Yeah, and it is. It was built in the late 1800s, and I think that's because if you go back that far, that's when people were dying in these houses, and they were being, but they were being autopsied and everything in these houses. So that times were different. Nowadays, I don't think a new funeral home is going to be haunted because of the business itself. I think it is the property itself. It's
the property. It's the land that it's on, or if you moved into an old Victorian or something, that's where you're going to get it. And that makes perfect sense to me. Have you investigated down there?
I've not been out there yet. No, it's about a 9.5-hour drive for me, and that's much more of a road trip than I want to take on a regular weekend. I'm going to go out at some point because I want to see him and I want to see the place he's got going on. But it's something I'll have to plan accordingly.
Right. So what do you got coming up soon? You other than, you're busy. Are you there every weekend, or you have a team that helps you out?
So I have a team. There's a group of us, like myself, my team, Warner Paranormal Explorers, Paranormal New England's been helping me out a bunch. And then I got a couple of my buddies from Hunting the Haunted that have been helping me out, and a couple other people that don't have teams that are part of the society. So we've been doing really well over there, but I'm trying to do only 2 weekends a month because I don't want to burn ourselves or the location out.
That's the thing. And if you can't, you're trying to commit yourself to, every weekend there, that's hard. You have no life. You have nothing else you can do. You want to do other things as well,
Exactly. Yeah. That's why it is looking pretty booked, because I'm pretty much booked. I don't think we have anything available until June at this point. May is booked. Obviously we're halfway through April at this point. There's a couple of dates left in June, a couple in July, and a couple in August. October is completely off the books. We're going to be doing our own very special event there, October 29th.
Oh, great.
Of the season. Those details will be shared when I finalize everything.
When you figure it all out. Yeah.
That's going to be completely different. It's not going to be paranormal focused. It's going to be something based around history.
Excellent. That's great.
But, so trying to do whatever we can,
That's it. That's it. So what would you like to share with the listeners? What would you like them to know about how to book the spot, or about you, and how to get a hold of you if they would like to?
Any information you guys would like, you can find through Warner Paranormal Explorers, and we are on every social media platform except Snapchat. But we are all on that with Warner Paranormal Explorers, and if you're interested in just the location and the Hearts of Hall and the future locations, that is Warner Paranormal Preservation Society, and we're on Facebook and Instagram with that one. Beautiful. But everything is linked all together. You'll be able to find us pretty easily.
That's nice. Awesome. So next week we have Don coming on from the USS Salem. We're going to be chatting with him. He's got are you coming up to the Paracon in May?
No, I have something else going on that weekend, and I can't remember what it is, but I know I have a conflict. Actually, I think I have an event at the hall.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We're setting up there. I've got a table there, but he's going to be talking about that coming up, and the Paracon, and which I think is also run with I can't think of the name of the group, but Willie, and do you know Willie from the James House? Have you been up there, Willie, at the James House in New Hampshire?
No, I've not been up there.
So that's another really interesting place. And this Paracon, I believe, is to raise money for the ship, but it's one of those buildings. The James House in Hampton is one of those buildings where they're trying to restore it, and so they're using the paranormal to kind of help do that. But the building has no wiring, it has no plumbing, it has nothing, and they're trying to bring it back. So if you get a chance to explore, we've had some crazy stuff happen up there too. It just, there isn't a wire in the place, and the EMFs have gone off the chart, and it's just insane. So Don's coming on next week.
That's when you scratch your head.
We get up to like 4.0. We were there one night. We were in the attic. Willie and Lynn were on the first floor, and the EMF meter, the Mel meter, went up to 4.0. And as it did, we started hearing like boots walking around below us and on the floor that we were on. And I reached out. The place is wide open, so you can call from the top floor to the bottom, and you'll hear it. Yelling for Willie, didn't hear a thing. He never responded, and so we have it on video where the Mel meter, the little thing on the back lifted up and slammed it back down on the table we were sitting at, and it just stopped. It just stopped, and then the footsteps stopped. Everything kind of shut down, and I went down and I found him, and he was sitting on the first floor. And I said, "Willie, did you hear me calling you?" And he said, "No, I didn't hear a thing. Did you hear footprints? Did you hear your footsteps or anything?" He never heard anything. So we don't know what happened. We don't know why we were getting that. We were the only ones in the building. And he said he had sat there the entire time, never heard me yelling to him. I don't know.
Those are the best kind of experiences.
It is. It's completely unexplainable. We have no idea what happened that night, but it was pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. So next week we have Don coming on. He's going to talk about the ship, and that's another really great place. And then in 2 weeks, we are talking with Maria Schmidt from Mysterious Adventures Tours. She's going to be talking about her tour to Wales with Brian Cano from Paranormal Caught on Camera. We've been trying to reach Brian to get on the show, and I'm still hopeful that he's going to be here that day, but we're going to be talking about that in a couple of weeks. And so we've got some good things. We've got some good things planned coming up. So you just had an egg hunt too, didn't you? Was that done through you? At the hall?
Yeah, that was the hall. What we're trying to do is we're trying to do all sorts of different offerings that places don't do. And I find that a lot of locations don't allow children to investigate, which I think is ridiculous. Because if children are interested in it, we should support that. My daughter's always been interested in it, so she's done it with me.
Yep.
And I run into that a lot of places I can't take her. So one of the things I wanted to do with the hall was family-friendly type event. So what we did was we did an early bird egg hunt only for little kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we left the option was, you know your child. So if your kid's 6 and wants to ghost hunt, I'm not going to say no. And we did a later option, which was an egg hunt and then a ghost hunt afterwards. And it was great. Both groups had a lot of fun. And I think we have quite a few new future ghost hunters on our hands after the event. So it was great. It went well. The kids were happy. The parents were happy to see the building because it's one of those places you drive by and it's like, oh man, I want to go in there. And
really?
It's never open, so you can't just go in. And we had a couple of parents who were very excited to be able to tour the building. So
that's great. I'm gonna have to watch out because my little guy is gonna be 9. I don't know how old your daughter was when she started doing this, but my son is gonna be 9 in June, and he's had a couple of interesting experiences at places we've been to where he felt touched. He felt touched by something. We picked something to back that up on an EVP, but he's always says, I want to go. And I never really felt that was, I'm not going to have him out all night. And I don't know that he's got the attention span to deal with it for long periods of time, but I'd love to go for an afternoon kind of thing and just see what he picks up,
That's one of the things that we've been trying to figure out is to do like a family friendly event that starts at like 6 to 9 or something like that, where you get enough darkness and light that you can kind of feel the place out and then be there as the sun goes down so you're not scared of it. Right.
Yeah, exactly. We've gone out in the afternoon. Right behind where I live, there's an old cemetery. They just found it a few years ago. It belongs to the old Tewksbury State Hospital. And I've taken him out with the recorder or the spirit box. We've got some stuff and he gets kind of excited. But it's 2 p.m. Never been out there at night with him. And but I know it's something he talks about wanting to do. I just, I don't know how ready he is, but I think, midday is probably a good place to start with something because, they come out all hours of the day and night. It doesn't have to be dark out,
And that's the thing I tell people all the time. Ghosts don't necessarily sleep. They don't have a time skip. They're just there.
They're there. Yeah. We've had some of the best experience. I had been to the S.K. Pierce house, and one of the best experiences I had was at 2 p.m. over there. Mm-hmm. We were there for class and it was amazing.
I believe it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what else would you like to talk about? We've got just a few minutes left and then we're off. We got another show coming on after us, but what would you like to talk about, Matt, before we
let's run down the events. So we've got Becky Galentine this weekend.
Yep.
And then we have on Friday the 13th, we have a gallery reading and VIP ghost hunt with Tiffany Rice, which is going to be really cool. It's a whole new venture for us as well. We've never had a gallery reading in the building, so that's going to be really interesting.
Nice.
Then the weekend after that, we have an event with Duo Demonology. James Anito and Carl Johnson are going to be there doing a lecture, and then we're going to do an investigation with them. And we have some private rentals. We have June, sometime in the middle of June. I can't quote the date. We have New Age Paranormal, and Haunted Emporium putting on an event.
Wow.
In July, we have Big Magic Paranormal putting on an event. And then in between all that, I'm going to try to find some time for some sleep and some fun.
Good for you. Duo Demonology. You know, I just booked an event. It's just me and Julie going down, so it's not our team or anything. But we're going down to the Belair House. I'd never been there. I've wanted to go, and James is running an event. It's not the two of them. I think it's just him and Eric Knapp are running an event down at the Blair House in Ohio, and we're going in the end of June. So I'll get a chance to chat with him there. I met them both when we were at the Paracon, and forget where it was this past year, the Warner Paracon, wherever that was. I remember driving to Connecticut somewhere. I think we were down there this past year. But what's the best way to reach out to them? Because I'd love to chat with them at some point about coming on as well and see if they would like to come on and chat about some of the stuff they've got going on.
Either their Facebook page is probably the best. I've been really close friends with James forever, so I talk to him on the phone all the time.
Oh, nice.
So I have an unfair advantage there, but I know they're very active on their Facebook page. You could get through them that way for sure.
All right, yeah, I'll send them an email at some point or a message at some point. Let them know. So does anybody on have any questions for Matt before we close up the show? Anything that he's got going on? Any of the Heart Stuff Hall stuff? And like I said, we're going on in August. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you got going on down there.
Yeah, by then they'll really understand what we're all doing in there, so they should be super attentive to you because they're starting to learn why we're there, and they're starting to understand the equipment that we're using. And we found that there's some children's spirits roaming about, and they're very interactive, but they're also very shy. And when we had the kids in this weekend, they were all about the kids, which was great. It was awesome to watch.
Wow, that's great. We just got a response from Susanna, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but it starts with a Z, so I'm not sure. But thank you. She said, "Great show, gentlemen." She's enjoyed the show, and you know she's reached out before, and she's from. I don't know if you're from Denmark or where you're from. I know you're from another place. And I don't remember offhand where I saw you're from, but thank you for being a part of the show today and watching. We appreciate that. That's the nice thing about this show is we're live in the United States and the United Kingdom. And I was on, she's in the UK. Okay. She said, thank you. Appreciate that. She's in the UK. And so we're live in the UK as well, but we're also available. People can hear this anytime. We're streaming this, so you'll be able to share this on your page, Matt, if you like, and Chris as well. But we are also on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Mixcloud, all places where podcasts are shared. So we're on all of these places. And I really appreciate the two of you being here with me today and sharing this very first episode. I was telling Chris earlier in the night, Matt, or earlier in the day, that Julie is normally my co-host, and she woke up with laryngitis, of course, on the first day of the first show. You know, so I was like, "Hey, Chris, what are you doing? Can you come on and help me out a little bit here?" It's sort of hard to talk by yourself for an hour before you have to go on the air, because you weren't coming on until 1, so that makes a long 60 minutes having a talk, and nobody wants to talk to me that much. So, but I do thank the two of you for coming on. I really appreciate your time and for being here today. And Chris, what would you like to say? Anything else before we close it down for the day?
I'd just like to say this to everybody: be kind to yourself and be kind to others, because that's what it's all about.
Couldn't agree more. Christopher Brown on Facebook, Matt Warner. But it's Warner Paranormal Explorers on Facebook and everywhere that you like, Twitter, and I would imagine all of those places, YouTube, the Warner Paranormal Preservation Society, and Christopher Brown on, is it Facebook, Chris? That you're
Psychic Medium Christopher at Facebook.com.
Christopher at Facebook.com. Gentlemen, I am very, very, very grateful for having you both on. Thank you for a very interesting show today. And folks, next week, don't forget to come back. We're going to be talking with Don DeCristofaro. I've said that, from the USS Salem. So we're going to be talking about the ghost ship, and that place. We've all been on that ship at one time or another. There's some great activity to talk about on there as well. So Thank you, gentlemen, very much. I appreciate you, and stay haunted.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate
Take care,
it.
Matt.
Yeah, you too, Chris. We'll see you soon.
Yep.
You have been listening to The Paranormal Project with Scott Allan and Julie Finn. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. While you're there, leave us a rating and review so others can find out about the show. Stay haunted and go out there and explore the paranormal.
Chris, we're done. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And in case Julie has another episode of whatever she might come down with next week, I may give you a call. I loved having you on as a guest today. I really appreciate you hosting the show with me. It's really helpful to have kind of a second person to back. She's back.
Hey.
There she is.
Hi, guys. Chris, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. It's my pleasure.
It was great. You guys it was a great show. Absolutely great show. And Chris, I look forward to seeing you again in person soon.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Hopefully in person very, very soon.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Take care.
Well, my friends, thank you so much. Great first job. Great first show. And I'll see you all another day. Thanks for helping out.
Congratulations on the show, my friend.
Thank you as well. You take care. Bye, Julie. Thanks again.
Take care, guys.